Now I have my oven preheated to 350 degrees because we're going to bake this, and this takes longer actually than the rest of the meal, so we're going to get started with it. In your grocery store, in the baking aisle, where you get the flour and the sugar and the spices and all that, usually on the bottom shelf is a product called apple pie filling. Now they have this product called caramel apple pie filling, and let me tell you, it is absolutely delicious. So I created a recipe using the caramel apple filling that's just easy and simple. Now, if you cannot find, I'm using 2 cans of caramel apple filling, apple pie filling. If you cannot find the caramel apple pie filling, these are 21-ounce cans. If you cannot find the caramel, then get the regular apple pie filling out of the jar, or just cooked apples out of a jar. I like the pie filling because it's thicker, but then get where you get the chocolate chips and the coconut shreds and all that. There will be a bag called caramel bits, and then mix in probably about half a cup of those caramel bits in with the plain apple pie filling, and it'll kind of give you the same flavors. The point is you want that caramel flavor, you know, with the apples. It is delicious. If you like caramel apples, and I do, I'm a huge fan of caramel apples, you're gonna love this dessert. To go along or on top of our apple pie spice, we're just using canned biscuits. Now I make all kinds of crumbles and you know, the little buckles and betties and all kinds of things using bread and oats and things like that. But this is gonna be a cobbler. You could by all means make your favorite cobbler topping if you want, but why not make it easy? I have just plain flaky biscuits. What I'm gonna do is cut them into quarters, which is 4 pieces, you know, 4 little pieces, and just lay them on top of the apple, the apples that are in the pan. Now the reason that I cut them is just for serving purposes. It's easier if you just cut them into 4 pieces or quarters. This is an 8x8 baking dish. And just make sure, because listen, you know, one of the best parts of a cobbler is the topping. So make sure that every square millimeter of that apple has a piece of biscuit on it, because that's gonna bake up and fluff up it. And I buy the flaky layers for this, and will be delicious with the apples. I love cobblers. And this to me is not just a wintry meal. I make apple desserts all the time, fruit desserts. When berries are in season, I make all kinds of, you know, pies and berry crisps and just different things, because it's a great way to get fruit in your diet. You've heard me say that over and over again. Most people don't get enough fruit in their diets. I make this one dish with biscuits. Then I haven't made that for you, so I'll make it. And if you need to cut them a little smaller, that's okay. You just want to make sure all the little nooks and crannies are filled in. But I make this one dish with flaky biscuits, and I cut them just like I'm doing here, and I chop up fresh apples and put nuts and different things in it and bake it like a tart, and it's really delicious. And then I make a little glaze to go over top. And we'll make that one day. We haven't made that on the program yet. I have lots of recipes that I haven't made for you. I love to cook, and I have cooked for years, and I have quite a collection of different recipes that I've tried. A lot of people ask me, how do you create recipes? How do you make recipes? Well, you know, I take things I like, and I'll think, okay, well, that would be good with this, or that'll be good with, you know, something else, and there you've got a brand new recipe. So it's not hard to create recipes. Now, on top of this, because I really want it to be golden and crisp and sweet, because this is a dessert. This is called, you've seen it in the stores, it's called number of things. Demerara sugar, sugar in the raw, natural sugar. But you see how it's kind of got that brown color, and it's a thicker consistency. That's what you want. And I use this on all kinds of desserts. And I've got, I don't know, a couple of tablespoons. You know, it's not an exact science. You just put however much you want. And you want to sprinkle it over top of your biscuits. What it will do is it will create like this crisp, crunchy topping over top of the biscuits, and I really love it. If you like creme brulee, if you've ever had creme brulee, which is a custardy dessert with sugar, burned sugar is what it is. Sugar caramelizes. It'll kind of mimic the topping of a creme brulee in that it'll be crunchy, crisp, and just delicious. So that's it. That's all you need to do. If you like raisins, you could stir in some raisins. If you like nuts, like walnuts or something, you could put some walnuts over top of it. It needs to go in a 350-degree oven for about 30 minutes until the biscuits are cooked through, golden and puffy and delicious. So this is going to go in a 300-degree oven. I'm going to take a quick break, get this in the oven, get set up for the asparagus, and we'll be back in just a minute. And welcome back. Now our cobbler is in the oven and we're going to make our side dish. And I absolutely adore asparagus. It is probably my #1 vegetable. It's 1 or 2, somewhere up in there. When it is good and fresh in the springtime, nothing is better to me. If you've never tried fresh asparagus, I want to encourage you to try this recipe because roasted asparagus is easy, simple, and delicious, and you retain all the nutrients and the vitamins and the minerals because we're not going to boil it. Now, I don't like, and a lot of people tell me this, I said, do you like asparagus? No, I don't like asparagus. Probably the way you've had it is out of a can or boiled to death to where it's mushy, and it isn't good when it's like that. So if you think you don't like asparagus, please try it fresh and roasted. When it's in season, it is delicious. Now, some people, asparagus comes in bunches like this in the grocery store with a rubber band around it. That's how it comes. Take it out and wash it and clean it. And some people tell you to take one of the spears, hold it in your hands, and it'll snap where it naturally is tender. Well, to me, that wastes way too much of the asparagus. So this is how I do it, and I've never had a problem, unless it's just really, really thick, and sometimes you have to go up a little further on the stalk. But this is a good medium-sized asparagus. Line them up like little soldiers. Let me move my lemon. And then get them all about the same length. Take a good sharp knife and cut off about 1 inch. And see, you can look inside and you see the good, tender, sweet asparagus, and then lay that out on your sheet tray. I've got 1 sheet tray here that I've lined with foil just for ease of cleanup. Do the same thing. Now, I bought 2 bunches of asparagus because I'm feeding a lot of people and I absolutely love it. And honestly, I could eat a whole bunch of asparagus myself with no help, no problem, no help at all, and eat it every bit. I simply love it. It's good grilled too. Well, that one's already short. It's really good grilled, and we'll do that maybe when we go outside to cook. If you have one, this is a good point. If you get one like this that seems to be a little tougher, this part of the asparagus can be woody and fibrous. You might need to go up a little further on some of them, but most of them, just look at them. Most of them about 1 inch, maybe 1.5 inches is really all you need. Now, you could save this for stock if you wanted to, but I just usually just discard that because I don't want it to be, you know, it's not edible. It's woody and fibrous, but it does make good stock if you're making vegetable stock. And then just line your asparagus up on a roasting pan. Doesn't have to be perfect. Just line it up there. Kind of try to get it out on a single layer. I've got a lot of asparagus here, but we'll manage. We'll get it in there, close as we can get. And then have your oven preheated to about 400 degrees, 425, 450, somewhere in there. It doesn't matter. You want a high temperature, though. And then take some extra virgin olive oil, Or you could use canola oil if you wanted to, but in this recipe, I like extra virgin. And drizzle it over the top of the asparagus. About a tablespoon or two. Not exact science here. Take some salt. You've seen me make roasted asparagus before, but it's the topping that we're going to do that's a little different here. And then some freshly ground pepper. I could eat this every day when asparagus is in season. And lightly toss it with your hands just to kind of get the asparagus coated in the olive oil. Smells so good. Oh, I love it. I wish you could smell this. Really, it is so delicious. And it needs to go in a 400 to 450, somewhere in there, degree oven. About 12 to 15 minutes until it just starts getting golden, and I'll show you when we take it out. We're going to put it in the oven, and then we're going to make the topping for the asparagus, which is called a gremolata. Now, what a gremolata is, it's just a breadcrumb topping that can be put over vegetables, over fish, over chicken, over anything. I have a small skillet here that I'm going to preheat, since I get my tools out of my way here. I'm going to preheat this small skillet to about medium high, and I'm going to let that get hot real quick, and I'm going to saute or just brown up some breadcrumbs. Now here's where you can use whatever you have on hand or whatever you like. You could use panko breadcrumbs, which is the Japanese breadcrumbs, or you could use just plain breadcrumbs. You could even take, if you've got some sliced bread at home and you need to use it up, you could pulse that up in a food processor and have fresh breadcrumbs would be delicious too. And I have 1 clove of garlic that I'm gonna smash and chop because you want that garlicky flavor. Gremolata is a lemon and garlic breadcrumb topping. And you can put this over anything with a little bit of cheese added in there. Not difficult to make, but it just flavors up the asparagus. Listen, I'd be perfectly happy with that just the way it is. But we're just going to dress it up a little bit and add our topping to it. Now, I just minced up 1 clove of garlic. You don't want to overpower the delicate flavor of the asparagus with too much garlic, because asparagus has a real mild, almost a grassy, earthy flavor. It's simply delicious, but it is delicate and you don't want to overwhelm it. We want to put a couple of teaspoons, not too much, olive oil or canola oil in our skillet, and we're going to put our breadcrumbs in here. And what I'm doing is toasting up the breadcrumbs. That is all I'm doing, is moistening them, and I'm toasting them. And I'll tell you what you could do. If you were making fresh breadcrumbs, here's a little hint for you. You could take the fresh bread and toast it in your toaster and then pulse it, and you've skipped your step of the skillet, but you still would need to saute the garlic a little bit. You don't want that raw garlic flavor. So we're just going to toast this up. I'm going to let that go just a minute. I have 1 lemon. Before I zest it, I'm going to roll it on my cutting board to get the juices flowing. That's a real good hint for you, because sometimes you just need to get the juices flowing. My little microplane, and I'm going to zest the lemon, the rind of the lemon with my little microplane. I personally think the zest has more flavor. It has all of the natural essential oils of the lemon in that rind. But you see the white part that's underneath right there? You do not want to get that white part. That's the pith, and it's kind of bitter. But the outer bright yellow part or the bright orange part of an orange or tangerine is absolutely delicious. The green of the lime. I use lemon a whole lot. I like the flavor of lemon, and I think it brightens up so many things. Tap the back of your microplane on your board, or take your finger, because you see it does kind of gathers back there. And then we're going to cut our lemon in half, and we'll juice it in just a minute. But we got our zest before you cut it in half. I promise you, once you cut it in half, it's really hard to zest the lemon. Done it too many times. Okay, we want to add in there, I'm going to put just a little splash of oil in that middle. Maybe another teaspoon or so, and I'm going to add my garlic. Want to saute my garlic quickly. Now, remember, garlic burns very, very fast. So don't overdo your garlic. About 30 seconds is really all you're going to need. I'm going to take a quick break. I'm just going to keep sauteing this. When I come back, we're going to finish up the gremolata and get the chicken frying. I'll be back in just a minute. Welcome back. Now, I took our breadcrumb mixture off the heat, and I'm chopping up some flat leaf parsley, just about, I don't know, half a cup or so of the parsley before I chop it. And it's flat leaf. If you can't find flat leaf parsley, by all means use the curly leaf, but please do not use the dried parsley. That is one spice and herb that you might as well not waste your money on, and I'll just tell you the truth. Dried parsley has no flavor whatsoever. Always get fresh parsley. Now, I use a lot of dried herbs, but this is not one of them. I do not like dried parsley at all. I just think it is flavorless. And you can get a bunch of parsley at the grocery store. It's readily available everywhere, and it's not expensive, and it really makes a big difference. It adds a freshness to your dish. And you know how we've chopped herbs before. Put your knife on the board with one hand and just go over. We're going to do some programs in the very near future on just different little things like this, how to chop parsley, what kind of herbs go with what, how to use tools, kitchen tools. I get asked so many questions. And so I think, you know, it'd be wise to do some programs on measuring spoons and cups and all of that stuff and what you do with what, pots and pans. So we're going to do some just informational programs in the very near future. I like mine minced kind of fine. You see how that great big pile of parsley's down to about probably a fourth of a cup to a half a cup of just finely minced up parsley. And we're going to add that to our breadcrumbs. We're going to add the zest of our lemon to our pan. We're going to add the juice. I juiced the lemon over the break. Just add the juice of that lemon. A little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper, maybe a fourth of a teaspoon of each one. Not much. And you want this mixture to be dry. Now, that's kind of the whole point. The lemon juice will be absorbed into the breadcrumbs and flavor them. Add our parsley. And again, this topping can be used on anything. It can be used on a piece of fish, a piece of chicken, whatever you want it to go on. Any roasted vegetable, it really is good. You could actually take this, and if you're grilling a steak or a hamburger, I really like hamburger steaks, and you could take and grill and make this mixture and put a little pat of butter over the steak or the hamburger steak, and then put a little bit of this over top. Would be delicious. So this is a very versatile little condiment to put in your food. This is Romano cheese, just grated Romano cheese. Romano cheese has a little bit sharper flavor than Parmesan cheese. If you can't find it's really easy to find, but if you can't find, or maybe you don't like the sharpness of Romano, you could use grated Parmesan. It would be fine. This is still a little warm, and I really don't want that to melt too much, so I'm not going to add the cheese at this moment, but I'm going to let this cool down just a little bit. Then I'm going to add that cheese into this, and then when our asparagus is done, we'll put it over top of our asparagus. So I'm just going to kind of let this set right here to cool for just a minute, and we're going to get started on our chicken tenders. Now I have a large skillet here, kind of getting hot. The oil is getting hot, and that's what I want. And I have got some boneless, skinless chicken tenders. And that's what I'm using in this recipe. If you don't have tenders and all you have are the boneless, skinless chicken breasts, you could do that without cutting it, or you could just slice them into little pieces would be fine. I have some plain breadcrumbs here. I'm going to set up a breading station, plain breadcrumbs, and I'm going to spice it up with some cayenne pepper, about, I don't know, 1/4 of a teaspoon or so, some salt, some pepper, lots and lots of pepper, and our breadcrumb mixture, because this is the flavoring for the chicken. You know, chicken on its own can be kind of bland. Let's just be honest. Sometimes it can be. So put that in there. And then I'm going to add about another 1/2 cup of the cheese that we're using in our gremolata to tie the flavors together. We're going to mix that. And you know what? There's no better tool than your hands. So get in there with your hands, because the chicken's going to go in here anyway. And then we're going to take our chicken and we're going to dip it into, I'm going to show you how to do it. Our oil is hot. We're going to take our chicken tenders, just straight out of the package. They cook up in no time because they're thin. And we're going to dip them in some egg. Then we're going to dip them in the breadcrumb mixture. Get, you know, several of them ready to go. Lay it out on your board till you get, let's just do it this way. Make it easy. Just put them all in there, coat them up with your hands, with the egg. The egg helps the breadcrumb mixture stick. And then put them down in your breadcrumb mixture. And then when your oil is hot, you're going to fry them. These are going to cook up in no time. I mean, literally, probably 5 minutes, they will be completely done. 2.5, 3 minutes on each side, because these are small. If yours are thicker, you know, it might take 5 to 7 minutes or so. And then when your oil is hot, and you know, sometimes I just put a little bit of the breading in there to see how hot my oil is. If it sizzles, it's ready. And then put your chicken tenders in there. Don't overcrowd it. That's rule number 1 when you're frying. Do not overcrowd your pan. And we're just going to fry these up. You want your oil to come up about 1/2 inch or so on the side of the chicken. We're going to fry them up until they're done. And then we're going to serve them with our asparagus. All right, now our chicken tenders are done, and there they are. We just took them out and put them on a baking rack just to drain over some paper towels, and then they're ready to go. And I have to confess, we've been sampling around here, and we love it. Now here's our gremolata. It has cooled, and I just stirred in the cheese that I was talking about. And here's our delicious roasted asparagus. But what you want to do is take some of the gremolata, and you don't have to use it all. You can save it and use it in something else, and you kind of want to just spread that over top of the asparagus. I took the asparagus out of the oven and turned the broiler on to high. We're going to stick this back under the broiler for just a couple of minutes. Oh, so, so good. So delicious. And this is, like I said, wonderful over a piece of fish or chicken after you've grilled it. While it's hot, put that on there, and then that melts that cheese. Okay, let's get this back under the broiler for literally only about 2 minutes. And that's it, just until, I'm not going to move it up. I'm going to leave the rack down a little bit. And I'm going to set my timer for about 2 minutes, and that's all you need. Now here is our delicious cobbler, and I want you to see how good that cobbler looks. See, the biscuits have fluffed up, and that the little caramel, the little sugar, I got parsley on my hand, the little sugar is still crunchy and crisp. As if that's not yummy enough, you can serve it with some caramel ice cream topping over top, just to add a little more decadence to it. And you know what? Something warm needs something cold. So I serve this with a little ice cream. And so we're going to get some of our wonderful little cobbler out. That's hot, so I want to be real careful not to burn my hands. Be sure you get the filling and the biscuits. And then put some ice cream. Oh, there's our asparagus. Ice cream over top. You can even drizzle a little more caramel over that if you want to. And there is an easy, quick, delicious apple cobbler for your family. Let's get our asparagus. Yep, perfect. You just kind of want it to melt just a little bit. And then serve that on the side of your chicken tenders. It's hot, better be careful here with my fingers. Serve that alongside your beautiful little chicken tenders, and there you go. A meal fit for a king that you can do any night of the week for your family. Thank you for joining with me, and I'll see you next time on Everyday Manna.